Folks, we talk a lot of books on the show. We talk all the time about, of course, the history of this country, who built this country, how we even got here. And all too often, stories are not being told properly. But we talk all the time about his story compared to actual history. And so my next guest is the author of a book that really is important, that tells a story that many people are not aware of. It is called The Black Family Who Built America, The McKissacks, 2 Centuries of Daring Pioneers. The book is by Cheryl McKissack Daniel, along with Nick Childs. Glad to have you in the studio. How you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Oh, good. So first and foremost, so when we say the Black family who built America, how so? Because there's a difference between, as that History Channel series, The Men Who Built America, and it's about, the Carnegies and Vanderbilt and Rockefeller and those folks as well. But y'all are talking about literally building America.
Yes. Well, the story is about the McKissack family, but it also represents Black people in general who took hand in building this nation for many, many years. People walk into structures every single day, whether it's, the stadium, the African American Museum, whatever, and they never say, well, who built this? Well, a lot of times, it could be a Black person, kind of like the hidden figures of construction. And so our book talks about our family who's been building in this country for 230 years. But there were also other Black people who were building.
Well, when we talk about building, for Royal Rogers, she is the wife of Jonathan Rogers. He was our founding CEO at TV1, and she did a documentary on Paul Williams. And of course, many of these Hollywood homes and also other buildings as well. And it took a very long time for that documentary to actually be told. And that's the thing. And so you have stories like this that are not well known. You see these other stories, you see stories in movies and things along those lines, and there are other white architects that people can just roll off their tongue, and because those stories are often told, they're talked about. And they're considered to be these great pioneers, but in nearly all the cases, they ain't Black.
Well, some of them are. And now those stories are coming out. And that's why this story about our family is so important now.
You say it goes back 230 years.
Yes.
Where did it start?
So it goes back to the first descendant of our family, Moses McKissack I, who came here as a slave and was taught the trade of making bricks. His son, Moses McKissack II, was a brickmaker and a master carpenter. And he incorporated us right after emancipation with the McKissack Contracting Company in Pulaski, Tennessee, which, of course, that's where the Ku Klux Klan started, which is kind of a backdrop of what he was dealing with when he incorporated our company back in the 1800s. Moses McKissack II, his son, was the first Black licensed architect in America with his brother Calvin McKissack, with license 117 and 118 in the state of Tennessee. And they moved our business to Nashville, Tennessee. And then my father took over as the 4th generation of McKissack. And then my mother stepped in when my father became ill. And then I took the company over from her. And so I am 5th generation in this business.
And what you laid out there as you were talking, I thought about so many Black-owned businesses that did not go from 1st to 5th, where many of them end after one generation.
Yeah.
And if they did survive one generation, they definitely didn't survive a 2nd generation. And so what was it that allowed this to continue?
You make a great point there, because there are some statistics that aren't in our favor, so we've overcome
a whole lot.
I mean, 40% of businesses make it to the 2nd generation, 18% to the 3rd, and 3% to the 4th, and here we sit as the 5th generation. And Nick and I, in this book, we make a case as to how the McKissacks were able to persevere through all that was happening. I mean, they went through slavery, Jim Crow, a racist deep South. And And so some of the history that surprised me in here, in our book, was around how slaves were treated different in each state. And the McKissacks were in North Carolina, where the slaves, there were fewer slaves slave masters probably had less slaves than, 500, 300 slaves, and a white family of 5. Moses McKissack was in a situation where there were 10 to 12 slaves. And so they were more like extended help, extended family, and they were treated differently. And then,
so was it necessarily like others where they had hundreds where it was a business? That was the agriculture business.
Exactly.
Okay.
They were artisans, so, they were builders, and the slave master was a builder. So they were helping hands to build whatever the master wanted to build. So they were taught how to build back then. And so what they brought to the table, the value they brought to the table was important at that time. I mean, people were beginning to build new homes. They were leaving the log cabin type homes and going to more of the stone structures. And so, and the country economically was beginning to do better. And so you had wealthier people who wanted to build stately homes, which the McKissacks built. In Spring Hill, Tennessee, you can see the McKissack home, the Cheers home, the Maxwell House home, which is the Maxwell House coffee. And, you can go a street of these beautiful homes that they were building at that time. So their craft was something that was needed.
But the continuation, I think, is important because what often happens is that next generation has other pursuits.
True.
I don't want to do that. I mean, there's so many kids who want to run away from the family business.
Yes.
And so what was it? Was it literally, no, this is what you're going to do? And because, I mean, other families have done that. Well, no, you are going to study this. You are going to work this. You are going to continue this. Or was it a matter of just as each generation, that was just what the decision was?
Yeah, I think there are several factors in that, and one is what are the other options, right? So Moses McKissack the first, passing the trade down to Moses McKissack the second, which he was able to expand upon. So with each generation, there was more education. They enhanced their trade. So then Moses McKissack the third, he became an architect. By the time I came along, my father was, you can go to the school you want to, but I'm only paying for Howard University, and you're going to get an engineering degree. Okay,
so he established the school and the major.
Established it all because, well, look, we only had 3 stations. We didn't have the internet. We didn't have a lot of choices. I remember at the time I was at a...
Now, is that what you wanted to do?
Not necessarily, because we
What did you actually want to do?
We were at a private white school, and everybody was going to Ivy League schools. Even our black friends were going to Harvard,
right.
Brown. That's what we wanted to do. We wanted to go to Columbia. We wanted to do those things, but
So you wanted to go to the Ivy League, but what did you want to study?
We probably still wanted to, at least I wanted to study architecture or engineering or business.
Got it.
Because I grew up working in the business.
Right.
I mean, at early ages, I was in the office on Saturdays, walking construction sites. We were trained that way at an early age. But I didn't necessarily want to go to Howard. But once I got to Howard, it was the best thing that ever happened to me. And, I'm
But then again, you couldn't, if you went somewhere else, you had to pay for it.
I'd have to pay for it. He wasn't playing about that.
Tom Jones did the same thing. Tom Jones told us, he's like, y'all can go anywhere, but it has to be an HBCU or I ain't paying for it.
Exactly. And so now today, my 2 children, one went to George Washington and the other one went to Pratt. I took them to Howard's campus, tried to talk them into it. It wasn't happening.
But you didn't make it on demand.
I know.
See, that's where you messed up. See, your dad figured it out. Your dad figured it out. You can't like not make a demand. You gotta say, I ain't supporting you ain't getting no money. You're gonna be 100% on your own. You figure it out. See?
I wish I could put the toothpaste back into the.
See, that's the problem. The problem is the next generation y'all gonna solve. See, that's the problem. See, y'all ain't hardcore.
No, we're not.
All right. Well, are they at least studying architecture, engineering? Or they?
No, they didn't. But they're in the business, and you know, I remember I rebelled against the business. Once I graduated from Howard, I didn't want to work for the family business. So
why?
I moved to New York. I didn't want to go to Nashville, and you know, I wanted to go into a corporation that was much bigger. There was this allure.
See, no. But that has to be explained, because that literally is what happens all the time. I don't care what the business is. I don't care if it's a catering business, if a grocery business, grocery store business, or whatever. That next generation, you know, in many ways, we're looking down on it, thinking that that's not big enough. It's not glitzy. It's you know, what my friends are gonna say. They're doing these things.
And your peers look down on it too. I mean, I write about that in my book. That, you know, my friends were going to work for on Wall Street, and here I am, got a consideration to go back to Nashville to work in a family business.
But see, but the thing though, but with that, but at what point did it hit you that, okay, sure, they're going these places, but we are owners?
Well, you begin to see that there's a glass ceiling, that everybody in leadership does not look like you. And, you know, at some point, you know, they're going to get rid of you because you're not tall enough, you're not white enough, you're not this, you're not that. And so you begin to realize that if you own your own, you really have control over your destiny. And to me, that's what hit me. Now,
and it's not like y'all were a small business. I mean, it's not like y'all were a mom and pop business.
No, we weren't a grocery store. We were architects and we were builders, and we had established ourselves 4 generations. But my mother stepped in. She called my boss. She told my boss I was quitting that day, and then she called me and told me I quit. So again, there was a little bit of force there.
Now, which job was that?
When I was working for Turner Construction, which is probably the largest contractor
So wait a minute,
America.
hold up. So you ain't gonna want to go work in the family business, but then you go work for a construction business, which is really closely tied to the family business, and then what? You were frustrated by what was happening there?
Well, I could see what was happening there, but I liked it there because it was learning ground for me. I was learning much more. You know, I was working on huge projects in Manhattan.
Right.
And that right there, you know, taught me a lot. But then my mother decided she needed my help. And, you know, the time was up.
So wait a minute.
It's time for me to go back to Nashville.
Mama called the boss?
Yes.
Did you know Mama was calling the boss?
No. I did not know. And then she called me and said,
so your mama calls the boss, says, hey, she leaving.
That's right.
Then she calls you, say, hey, by the way, I told your boss you leaving, so you ain't got no choice but to come.
That's it. And then I said, oh my God, Mom, I'm scared of him. And she said, oh, he's a nice man. We had a great conversation.
Now, you should have been scared of her for calling your boss and you didn't know, saying she leaving a job that you had no plans on leaving.
No plans. And that next week, I start commuting to Nashville.
But do you believe that whether it was the Ivy League schools or the glitzy jobs, do you believe some of that was white validation? And I'm asking for a reason, because I've talked to, I've interviewed so many different people, and I've seen so many different stories. And what has been consistent is that even with our businesses, when I go back to the whole looking down on it, you have black children who, oh, that's less than, versus that, whether it's school or whether it's the business. And that thing is real. That thing is real, that what is ours. I was literally did an interview today, and I was telling someone that the power of white supremacy is so deep that the moment we say something is black school, black-owned business, many of us automatically go straight to it's second class.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I've lived that. I've been running a black business now for over 30 years. So I've lived that. I've had to hire people. I've had to go for projects. You know, I've had to represent. And I get that. I still get that.
What do you say to the folk who you do employ, who bring that mentality, who come into the door and you know they are moving and acting in a way that they would never do if that was a white company?
So that has happened to us several times, that we have gone out for senior leaders and we've used large search firms to bring them in, and they're white. They come in like they're the great hope. They come in as though they have the best ideas. They want to rearrange and change everything that we're doing, especially our culture. And it has not worked for us. We've rejected those people. And so now at McKissack, because we're in the middle of succession planning, we are appointing a whole new leadership in January. We are now appointing people that have been with us for 18, 20 years, who happen to be black, who understand our culture, who appreciate what they've learned at McKissack, who have seen us grow and were part of that growth over the last 20 years. But yes, of course.
Now, and those are white staffers. How did you deal when you had black folks who thought that way? Because see, when I was at TV1, we will often have, I mean, we might be in meetings or whatever, and I had some staffers that, well, you know, we are a black network. And I literally said, if I hear any of y'all say it again, you're fired. You will not work on this show if that's your mentality, because I know exactly what that phrase means.
Yeah.
And I said, I will fire you if you ever say that again.
Yeah, I've seen it more with our black clients.
No, I mean,
who think the other's ice is colder. Yes, I've seen it with black clients, black institutions, where they hire white contractors and then bring us in underneath them.
Right.
Right. You know, now they're concerned that they only have 2% black subcontractors on the job. So they bring us in to fix that. And because the community now is talking about them.
Right.
But it's late. It's too late. I get that. I see that much more.
Now, because I know how I roll. Now, do you bite your tongue or have you pulled some folks' coattails?
I do not bite my tongue. I engage my consultants to write letters, and then I don't contribute to their galas and events ever again. Because these are some of the prominent black institutions in New York that I'm just shocked that they would even consider a black firm.
Now, have any of those folks hit you as like, sure, what's going on? You're not contributing. And do you then say, let me explain to you why?
They know why, but I have had opportunities later on to explain, because they find themselves in trouble. They hired the white firm that had the front as a sub, and now they're on the front page of the New York Times, okay? And I run into them later, and I'm like, you see, that's what you get. That's what you get.
See, the reason I think this is so important, because when we talk about building capacity, building scale, earlier you were talking about that glass ceiling. Well, there are black institutions that contribute to that for black-owned businesses. And I've seen this in so many different areas. I've seen this, there are black organizations, civil rights organizations, that literally hire white PR firms.
That's what I want to say.
Oh, I ain't got a problem saying it. So let's just be real clear. I ain't got a problem saying it. I mean, it was a white PR firm, the NAACP hired for the Image Awards, who had no idea who these black celebrities were. So they were literally turning people away on the red carpet.
Crazy.
And there was black publicists going, hey, that's so-and-so from so-and-so show that they literally had no idea. And what the black publicists were saying was, okay, you're paying top dollar to that white PR firm because you think that they can get you coverage in mainstream media, and we know the retainers they pay. How is that you are not having a black PR agency as your lead of the NAACP Image Awards?
Exactly. That's crazy. It was refreshing to walk in here and see all the black people working. You see my PR consultant. You see my photographer, my glam team. I get it. And I'm 100% behind the fact that it's an ecosystem. Mm-hmm. We have to work together. Mm-hmm. And it comes together beautifully when we own and we believe that. Let's take Terminal 1 at JFK, where Magic Johnson and Jim Reynolds and Loop Capital are owners. The first thing they did is they brought me in. Then they said, now you got to take it all the way down. You got to hire black architects, black engineers, black contractors. We're now at $1.5 billion in spend with minority businesses. But it started at the top. Mm-hmm. And so that mentality is one that we have to have. It's about black economic empowerment, and we should be able to do it by ourselves.
When we talk about building, we're talking about whether we're talking about, any project.
Yeah.
What happened when? Well, no, but before, not them. Have there been situations where internally y'all said, "I think that's too big for us," or has it always been, "No, there's nothing too big for us"?
No, there have been projects that are too big for us. But let's take Medgar Evers College in Brooklyn. Mm-hmm. Back in early 2000s, President Edison O. Jackson, he was determined to have a black firm build his campus. Mm-hmm. So we went to our partners and, we asked them to joint venture with us and to be a backstop for us. And that's the way you do that. You build partnerships. Mm-hmm. We did that with Bruce Ratner for the Barclay Arena. We worked with Turner Construction. And so, no, there's a way to do it.
So something happens.
We're not gonna go and take a job that we cannot successfully complete. We don't have one of those in our portfolio.
Right, so the point there is, when you make an assessment of a particular job, and you say, we're big enough to do this on our own.
Yeah.
But if it is a job that is bigger than your capacity, you don't walk away from it. What you say is, okay, who can we partner with?
Right.
See, the reason I had to ask the question, because that's the mistake. I think the mistake that a lot of people make. First of all, they want a job. They want the bigger contract. But if you do not have the capacity for that contract, and then you get it, you actually end up hurting yourself because you can't do the high quality job. And then that word spreads around, and you're trying to get to this level, and it may actually knock you lower than where you are right now.
It'll take you out.
Right.
In our business, it could take you out. But the large firms do that. No one wants the risk for an $8 billion project. Mm-hmm. Or $4 billion project. So even the large firms team, and they spread that risk around. And so we've been successful at doing that over the years, but we have to educate our client that that's possible.
Right.
Because the client right away says, oh, it's too big for McKissack.
Right.
Let's go get the larger firm.
And you're like, hey, hold on, don't play me small.
Right.
Let me make that decision.
Right.
You said y'all started the new transition in January. Will that be the 6th generation?
No, it'll just be a great management team that has been with us for a very long time.
And why is that?
Because I'm looking at succession. Mm-hmm. I've been working on succession planning for several years now. And, by 2030, I'd like to cut back on my hours in the office. And so I want to start the succession now. Mm-hmm. And I'll have 5 years to see it through. Mm-hmm. I feel succession planning is missing in a lot of family-owned.
So there were no family members who you said can run this business?
Not now, no, no.
Now that's not an easy decision.
No, but you know, when you talk about succession planning, it's the management side and then it's the ownership side. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking at how to deal with the ownership side with actual family members and probably some of my staff members.
Because listen, the thing even part of that, I was in this debate with somebody, and we were talking, I'm not going to name the individual we were discussing. But what I said to him, and he couldn't believe it. I said to him, I don't measure great black business founders or owners by how they succeeded and ran their business. I said, I call them great based upon how they left it. Mm. And he was like, I'm not understanding. So then when I explained to him this particular business, how it was left when the founder passed away, I said, that's why I can't call this person a great businessman. I said he was a good businessman. He was great while he lived. I said, but those who are great is that they properly position the business to succeed without them, and they made those succession plans very clear. And so that's whether it's a pastor of a church, whether it's a business owner, that is a huge...
A politician.
You're right. Yeah, say politician as well. But that is a huge part of legacy, that you are thinking about that, and it's not just solely about me, myself, and I.
No. I feel it's incumbent upon me to get in the right management team to carry this business forward without me, mm-hmm. and to grow it. You know, it shouldn't just be on my shoulders. Mm-hmm. And so I've been working at that for a while. And, you know, I had to take a sabbatical this year for a couple of years. So the management team that I'm putting in place actually started running the company mm-hmm. back in February. And we just kept it going. Mm-hmm. As you know, I'm on a book tour.
Well, somebody got to do some work.
Somebody's got to do some work.
Last question, I ask all book authors this, and that is, in the writing of the book and doing the research, what was your wow moment? Was there something that you remembered, or was there something about the research that caused you to go, wow, that was unbelievable, that's crazy?
There's a whole chapter on Birth of a Nation. And
the movie?
The movie.
Got it.
And, you know, what does that have to do with construction? But it has a lot to do with all black businesses mm-hmm. at that time, because that was when black businesses who had white patrons had to shift to only have black patrons, because at that point, you know, just that imagery alone mm-hmm. made white people not want to go to black businesses anymore. And, you know, not only not go to them, just out and out kill us too.
Right.
Because if you were white and you hated us, this just gave you the license to go ahead and kill.
Yeah, Julianne Malveaux talks about that in her research. She said, a lot of people understand, a lot of the lynchings were not tied to some white man speaking to a white person or whatever. It was the jealousy of the success of black-owned businesses.
It was jealousy. That's the root of it. You know, it's the brokenness of those people that couldn't deal with
yep.
black people succeeding.
Right.
You just left us alone.
You segregated, you did everything, had folk enslaved, did all of that, and now you mad because despite all of that, we still
rise.
Right.
We're rooted and we still rise.
Right. Well, some things change, some stay the same. Y'all, the book is The Black Family Who Built America, the McKissacks, 2 Centuries of Daring Pioneers. Cheryl McKissack Daniel with Nick Childs. Get the book, folks. Y'all know how we believe about history versus his story. And so that is critically important. And so, again, Cheryl, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.